Starting the recording. We're gonna just talk about some boring stuff today, probably, right?
So boring.
Yeah,
Nothing going on.
nothing at all. Adam, anything interesting with you?
No, I'm pretty uneventful.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Hello, and welcome back. If you were here before, welcome back. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is Gimme Gimme the Ball. We're armchair. What do we call GMs?
GMs.
Armchair GMs talk about basketball, and it is currently February 4th. If you've been following the last couple episodes, you saw that one came out in November of 2024, and the next one came out last week, which was January 28th. If you watched or listened to that episode, you might have heard the people on this podcast give some interesting takes, considering that not 2 days later, the world imploded. But before we get onto that, some introductions. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyler. I have with me, as always, Adam.
Hello.
And Brandon.
Yo.
So, guys, the NBA is on fire.
Absolutely not. Everything is completely normal. Nothing is different at all about the NBA right now.
All right. Good point of view, Brandon.
Yeah, it's just another day, you know.
Okay.
I to cut through the facade here for a second. The last time I was this absolutely wrapped by something, it was like a hugely tragic event.
Well, to make sure,
It's just
in case someone's watching this in the future and wants a snapshot, about 3 days ago, I believe Saturday, which is February 1st, right? Saturday, February 1st,
Yes.
Luka Doncic was unceremoniously traded to the Los Angeles Lakers at around 11:30 Central Time. So him being in Dallas got a call probably at midnight from his GM that said, hey, fatty boy, you heading out to LA, baby, for what seems to be Anthony Davis and a bag of peanuts.
Yeah.
Conspiracy is no bag of peanuts, Tyler.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
All right, now continue, Brad. I just wanted to set the scene here. We are in
Yeah,
DEF
no,
CON 7.
Yeah, and the Utah Jazz was involved as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was a three-part trade. Yeah, so here's the thing. Nico Harrison is out of fire for this trade for a variety of reasons. This is the guy who runs things in Dallas. And I just got to say, I think Nico was right. And I'll tell you what. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely
Well,
not.
I was gonna say, guys, if you, in case anyone was curious who listened to that statement and then paused right there, but then fast forwarded now, Brandon's address is 13. Okay.
I was trying to think about this, but tell me what you guys think, because
Well,
this has been talked
I
about a
think
lot, and I'm sure
I think
anyone
we should
listening to
all.
this. Oh
Oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
I said you go ahead first. I'll set the scene here.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure anyone listening to this at this point has listened to 12 other podcasts about this with all sorts of different angles and
And at
takes.
least 30 TikToks.
At least 30 TikToks.
I think we all need to take an archetype here. We all need to pick our thought process and then stick to it. I call dibs on conspiracy theory.
I love that.
I've spoken to Adam. I've spoken to our friend John about this. I've spoken to many people at this point. I am team conspiracy theory, which I will be glad to dig my heels in as part of this conversation. Adam, do you have a stance on the thought process of GM Nico Harrison?
I mean, you have heard my opinion and you stole my position, so I'll pivot to another one. I think that it's not the worst move. I think people are slightly overreacting. Slightly.
I don't think your opinion was conspiracy.
Uh, we'll get into it. We'll talk a little bit more.
I
about
mean, I'm
what's
happy to
going
give.
on.
I'm happy to give you a conspiracy. I'll take Dum Dum who.
No. I actually there. I do genuinely feel like after sitting on it for a couple days, the
Okay.
move itself is not that insane. The problem arises from more of the way that the trade came to be, as opposed to the actual move that was made.
All right.
So,
Now we'll get into it. Brandon, what is your
Yeah.
archetype here?
So the one thing, okay, mine is going to be somewhat nuanced, but critical and just very
They're
curious
idiots.
about all the different things this could create in the future. Does that
Okay.
count?
You know what? Yeah, we can make it count.
Okay, I'm like filling in. I'm filling in the space between you guys. I guess.
Do we want to kind of give a rundown of everything that at this point, 3 days past the trade that being announced, everything that we've learned from reporting? Do we like kind of provide some
sure.
context
Sounds like an
into?
Adam job.
Yeah,
Yeah, Adam.
so at this point in time, the story that has been corroborated by multiple sources is that the Mavericks GM and the Lakers GM have been discussing this for a while now, apparently. Um, Starting initially as a joke, apparently, that has turned into an official move at this point. Um, Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris straight up for Max Christie, Anthony Davis, and a 2029 first round pick from the Lakers. So uh, everything else outside of this gets a little bit murky because it has just been announced. But the unfortunate part is all the secrecy that surrounds this has led to a lot of speculation about where information is coming from. The other part to this is that supposedly none of the players involved were made aware of this trade before it came to be, including the people being moved, as well as pseudo GM of the Lakers, LeBron James. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. That's, I think, the most that we have in
Well,
terms
also
of straight facts.
the initial statement from Nico Harrison, right, that the Mavericks are honing in on defense.
Oh, and they want to win now. That was
Yeah.
the reason that the move was made was the Lakers, or not the Lakers, the Mavericks want to quote unquote win now
Through defense.
through defense.
They want to win now through defense, and it gets into some nitty gritty, more of the hearsay of things about Luka's conditioning, Luka's attitude
Yes.
potentially, but those aren't things that I think the organization has commented on. But
Nico Harrison, and just real quick, and in the press conference, I mean, he said stuff that's more damning than what you even got into there. I mean, this whole like, they'll bury us in 10 years, we'll bury ourselves by then. What the hell does that mean?
he's a poet.
Like, you guys, like, it's almost, you trade the beloved franchise centerpiece and then say we'll bury ourselves in 10 years in the press conference. Like, it's like you're almost like relishing the fact that you are just a GM who will be fired at some point. But before then, you manage to get rid of a beloved person, a player that kids bought jerseys for, that the entire community of the Mavs rallied around.
Well, and that's where I'll let Tyler lean into this side a little bit more, but there have been conspiracy theories that he is a Lakers plant as a GM.
Yeah, let me lay down my tinfoil hat early on. And there's very, very many layers to this. A lot to unpack in the conspiracy side of things, guys. But first of all, of course, that he is obviously working for Los Angeles, deep in the pockets, of Hollywood, big Hollywood. He's friends with Pelinka, goes back a long time. I think he's worked with LeBron, of course, in the past. He was a Nike VP, I believe. Infamously blew the deal to get Steph Curry to sign on as a Nike athlete. Basically pissed Steph Curry off hard enough during that presentation for a signature shoe that Steph went to join Under Armour and has made $1 gajillion for them. And yeah, I think that he honestly, the conspiracy for me, he's just a pawn. He's just a pawn. He's gonna make his money for doing it. He's gonna take the blame. He's gonna be the face of it. He's gonna take the blame for this. He's gonna make these bad decisions that aren't his. It's the billionaires above him puppeteering the whole thing. This is just the tip of the iceberg, fellas. So buckle your seatbelts for the conspiracy wagon.
Tyler, you're not even hitting on the best conspiracy theory I've heard so far.
Go for it. What is the best conspiracy theory you've heard?
Which is, hear me out here. Obviously, the league wants to expand, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team bursting at the seams with talent.
Mm-hmm.
The league wants to expand. A very not well kept secret is that the goals for expansion are Vegas and Seattle.
Oh, I was gonna get into the Vegas bit.
Oh, were you gonna do this?
Yeah, I was gonna get into a little bit of the Vegas bit, but you go ahead. You're already telling the story.
Okay, sorry. I just want to lay this out because I think it's great. But Vegas money is happening right now. Look at the Raiders. Look at soon to be the Athletics. I mean, you go to Vegas, you make a lot of money. Well, the NBA likes money. They'd like to get in on some of that money. So rather than have expansion teams in Vegas and Seattle down the road, why not get the Mavs fans to turn against the Mavs, move the Mavs to Vegas, and then later your expansion teams go to Dallas and Seattle? That is their team back, and the NBA gets a lot of money in the interim.
That is a next level version of the conspiracy theory I've had and been hearing about, which was more that the current owners of the Mavericks have a lot of money already in casinos. The rumor being that they've been trying to get a casino opened up with a new Dallas stadium for the Mavs, and that Texas is pushing back on opening a casino in an NBA stadium. So the thought process is in kind of similar. Tank the team, tank the goodwill, just open up in Las Vegas, close down Dallas. Don't even need Dallas. Just shut her down, and bring it all to LV. I'm sure Adam and I were talking about all this stuff, so I might have taken a bit of his. Adam, do you have any other branches to the conspiracy that is the Dallas Mavericks owners?
I think that there's a secret society within the NBA that is, what's how to put this delicately? Plumping up players to create an interesting image for what the NBA is in the future. No, I'm just kidding.
They're the evil witch from Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah,
and Luka Doncic is Hansel.
At some point, these executives know that like the more faces you have, the more jerseys you sell. So if you're, superstars are potentially injured, or you have to cycle through them, get a new face in, a new jersey will sell, all that kind of stuff. So
I thought you were talking about like physically plumping him up, like getting him fat.
Oh yeah, but no, they're always going to lean into the injury side.
Oh, like
they're never going to straight up say, "Oh, you have a weight problem." They're going to say, "You have an injury problem.
You have a conditioning problem."
Exactly. If you lost some weight, you'd be on the court more.
Anyways. Well, I don't know if, all the gimmicks and the comedy aside, it's a conspiracy, whatever. But underlying it all is the fact that the trade makes not that much sense. I was going to say no sense, but I mean, I know Adam is going to give a more measured take on it. From just a third party, as in I don't care about the Mavs. I really don't care about the Lakers. But, just looking at just the eyeball test, it looks inane. It doesn't make much sense. So the fans, and just general watchers alike are probably turning to like, oh, it's probably more than just a GM being stupid. I wanted Brandon to take that take. Just the GM is stupid.
Well, honestly, no. If you want my I don't actually subscribe to any of the conspiracy theory takes, as funny as they are. No, what I actually think happened. Number one, I do not think Nico Harrison is stupid, but I do think he got worked by his buddy Rob Pelinka.
I think he got fleeced?
Yeah, I mean, I think these two were having these conversations. They go way back. Kind of like, man, but imagine, like, you got all these kind of gritty defenders. You've got all this size. Got Kyrie who can be the offense. Imagine if you had someone like AD. They're at center or playing the four, which it's so funny that
But
Dallas
it's
is
but
like,
it's
AD,
too
you can play the
bad you
four here. And he will
you
be in the
can't have
five
AD
already.
because AD is on my team. I wouldn't give up AD unless I had a superstar
Well, yeah,
caliber
but I
player.
think you think about how this stuff goes. So, like, this is a bad example, but let's say Tyler and I both play guitar quite a bit.
Hmm.
So sometimes, say you like really, really want a guitar,
Yeah.
and you're like, man, that's just like the one. That's the thing I want. That this is the sound I'm going for. This is the right year, and you found it at this shop, and it cost this price. You kind of look around and you see, well, maybe if I went to, there are 4 or 5 other stores within 100 miles that I could go to, and actually probably get it for way less, and maybe even get some other stuff too. But man, I really like the way this looks. I kind of want it right now.
Well, this store has been like sweet talking me for years. This
Yeah,
store has
sure,
been my
sure.
best
No, and
friend's
the
store.
owner's a buddy of mine, and he's like, dude,
Yeah.
like this one right here, this one in particular, I've had this for a long time, and
And then you
I can
give the
really
owner
vouch. And
and then you give the owner your house. You give him your entire house for that guitar.
but I think there's something to that, and just when you're in a one-on-one conversation, and there's so little. Everything we know about this is that it was totally lip sealed, like barely anyone knew about this aside from the two of them.
Mhm.
You
So
can get kind of delusional in that situation, I think. And I get wanting to keep it tight-lipped. What I can't understand, I don't even dislike this Dallas team. I think this Dallas team is going to be a pain in the ass in the playoffs. I do. With Anthony Davis, with Kyrie Irving, with the size and the shooting they already have. Um, I think it's a, if you're talking about a win now, whatever. I think this team is going to be tough to beat. I think like a team like OKC, you don't want to see that team in the playoffs.
Mm-mm.
Uh, I think you probably have the firepower to beat them, but they'll rough you up. Uh, and like, so it's not so much that. I was even thinking about this. Even if Dallas wins the title this year, there is still a high percentage chance that the trade is a failure,
just for goodwill,
in my opinion.
just for public sentiment or fan base sentiment, or for the future.
No, no, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. No, because you have now just, the Lakers have been treading water for what their next chapter is going to be with this LeBron and AD kind of, Braun in his waning years and AD doing his thing. And AD's been playing great ball in the last couple years, but you just gave them a franchise reboot. You
Yep.
Cool.
just
Yep. We're
gave it
happy
to
about
them.
it. We're happy. It sounds like you're
The next 10
infringing.
years.
It does sound like, Brandon, you're infringing a little bit on Adam's archetype here. I want
Oh,
to
I'm sorry.
I want to pass the
No.
floor over to the middleman.
Yes, let's hear from Adam.
So I have one like there's one piece that I could not accept from the, you know, GMs are just buddies, they go way back
Right.
thing. And that's these moves, as much as like modern day GMs might have a significant amount of power, these moves have to be approved by some people. You can't have this just happen without anyone knowing. So either the Mavs are surrounding Nico with a bunch of yes men that just, you know, told him this is the right idea, this is what we want to do, or the ownership and people are like on the staff were signing on. They're excited about it, or at least looking at it as a net neutral move, right? Um, so for me, I agree. I think that this is going to be a pain in the neck team to play in the playoffs. I don't think that they're like significantly worse this season. But where the concern for me is, and where I can kind of lean into the conspiracy theory about ownership wanting to move the team, is they didn't set anything up for the future. They got a 2029 first round pick and that's it. Like Anthony Davis, obviously, but like if you were a team that knew you had like one shot, this is probably the year. You don't know if Kyrie's coming back. AD's not necessarily always healthy. Like if you thought that you had one shot, maybe two, to win a championship now, you load up on picks in this situation. And that's
Absolutely.
where I think the most concerning part of this deal is, and where I think Dallas kind of showed their hand a little bit. It's I agree completely about the Lakers side. The Lakers have been treading water. You know, there's obviously the side of the Lakers that thought D'Lo might be the answer for a little while there. Like he could be a franchise point guard, and then they got a coach in that told him that he doesn't know how to shoot the basketball, and now he's gone. You know, so LeBron James is really the only consistent thing they've had. AD comes in, they win the chip. Pelinka could use that as the, selling point on AD. Like we weren't really supposed to win that year, but hey, we did it because AD came. But as a Mavericks like organization, you have to think, well, we just lost the person who was going to be our future. So what is our future now? And that's not something that I think any GM would sign on to without some kind of, I don't know, alternative motivation in this context.
So do you actually think there is some, maybe not to the point that people are saying, but some conspiracy part of this?
I genuinely think that the ownership group does not see a long-term future
in Dallas.
In Dallas.
Oh wow, yeah, that
It's
would make way more sense than anything else, honestly.
yeah, like that. I think the picks part of it, the ownership having lots of land ready to go in Vegas, a win now mentality to potentially, I don't know, wave off some of the scorn that they're getting from all of this and potential future, backlash. Like
Sure,
even the
I
comment,
really don't think you're not winning anything with this team. You could maybe make the Western Finals, maybe, but
yeah. I mean, even
yeah.
the comment of like we're gonna burn ourselves in 10 years or whatever he said.
Very hard.
Yeah, like that's
Uh,
that to me says that there is a future plan, but it's not on the court.
It's in the
So
casino. Ring a ding ding. But
yeah. The other thing too that might kind of even support your thing further, Adam, is sending him to the Lakers and rebooting them. It's not just a helping out the Lakers thing, and that's really bad for you. If it's a good deal, then that's fine. Help out the
yeah,
Lakers all you want.
yeah,
The thing is, you have, by not securing those picks, and by the way, look at any transaction of any star worth. Mikal Bridges got 5 first-round picks
yeah.
to the Nets.
I mean,
I mean, like,
even Rudy Gobert. If you compare it to Rudy Gobert,
yeah, oh my God, right.
who like whether you agree with him being a really good center or not, I know that's questionable depending on who you ask. But I think he ended up getting 6, right?
Yeah,
Like
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
it's
But
wild.
yeah, it is wild. The biggest thing to me though is that you send Luka to LA. It's not just because Luka is there. Stars will go there because
Yeah.
Luka is there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Stars
think
came to Dallas for that same reason.
Yep.
Stars might have gone to Dallas, right? Exactly. If Luka were there,
No, as in like
but
Clay's
they'll
in Dallas for
definitely go
Luca,
to
right?
LA. What was that?
Clay's in Dallas for Luca, right? Kyrie's in Dallas for Luca.
For sure, for
And
sure.
no
I
longer.
mean, yeah, they got traded there, but
Oh, well.
well, was Kyrie a free agent? I can't remember. Anyway, no, he got traded.
I thought Clay chose Dallas over another
I
team.
think Clay chose Dallas
He
in the
signed in free
offseason.
agency. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
It was
All right.
him wanting to go to
a winning team.
championship team, and as a team that just made the finals,
So
he
Adam,
is a good bet.
aside from
Absolutely.
conspiracy,
Good people.
you also wanted to take the stance says it's not that bad a trade.
Yeah, okay. So this is where I think, and this is from the perspective of a Mavericks GM, where I can see the initial thought of offloading Luka might come from, right? If you genuinely have concerns about his motivation, his fitness, all that kind of stuff, and you don't want him to necessarily be the face of your franchise, you could very easily make a case that this would be the point to move him. His contract is in the best spot it's going to be. While he is a max, he's not a super max, which means that you're paying him 100 million less over 5 years or whatever than what he wants as an extension, which, if I remember correctly, is coming up next year. I think he's eligible, assuming that he hits all the accolades or whatever. But realistically, if there was going to be a time for the Mavericks to move on from Luka Doncic, now would be that time. So it's, while it might be bewildering to us I with Wemby now, I can't say that as a Spurs fan, but like anyone who doesn't have a franchise player would be dreaming to be in the situation that the Mavericks are in, to even have the luxury to say, this might not be our superstar, but this, if there was a time to move on from Luka, is the time. What they got back from the trade in terms of a player to player level, like I said, I don't think it moves the needle significantly in either way. Don't get me wrong, Luka Doncic, probably one of the top 5 players in the league, in my opinion. Anthony Davis, probably top 10, I would argue. That being said, Anthony Davis on the decline, Luka Doncic on the incline. It may be plateauing soon, but
25 years old and still young.
yeah, you've got
Yeah.
at least 5 more solid years. Whereas Anthony Davis, I wouldn't put a bet past like 2 or 3, depending on his health. Which is where, once again, not to circle back to the conspiracy theory, but you're looking at a team that needs to have players that stick around. We kind of alluded to it with the LA thing. Stars will play in LA regardless of if Luka's there or not. I mean, they have LeBron, so that helps, but like stars migrate to LA. Stars don't migrate to Dallas.
Right.
So if you already have someone, if you looked out in the draft, you made the awesome trade of Trae Young for Luka Doncic, you got the guy. It's interesting to me you would spend that magic on someone who is a temporary thing, a shorter term thing.
I mean, it's
Here's my thing
also.
on that.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say smaller conspiracy, but it could literally just be that they're really cheap. The Dallas organization is just really cheap, and that's all it is. They don't want to pay the max, and they just want to get something for him.
That's true. I think I mentioned this the night the news broke out, but it's very rare that a Supermax player is worth it, in my opinion. Supermaxes tend to come to players that have proven that they can win a championship. And if they aren't already winning championships, it's most likely a legacy thing, right? You know that they're going to stick around and be the face of your franchise. They're beloved by your fan base. So when I say worth it, quote unquote, I mean from a championship perspective. Obviously, if you have happy fans and the money still flowing from jersey sales and you're selling tickets, that could be success in its own right. But to have to pay someone an extra 100, I think it was like 130 million on top of his already max contract, I could, that it makes sense that ownership might not want to do that. I don't
I
think
do
all
get that.
owners would, but
Yeah. My so there's a couple things. One, it's like first, okay, so now you've saved up all this money.
Mhm,
Anthony Davis to me is one of the best number 2 players in the league.
mhm.
He is not a number 1 player in my opinion. Maybe he'll prove me wrong as a Dallas Maverick. I don't know. Uh to me, it's like he got rid of Luka Doncic. It's like, what is this money for now? You've
Yeah,
built a team of role players around Luka that just made the Western Finals last year. And beyond that, it's like most stars, superstars, legends, whatever you want to call it, get humbled deep in the playoffs before they overcome.
yep,
Yeah,
This is what happened to LeBron James in 2011 with the Heat. You could name a ton of instances like this.
the
That's what happened to Luka
Spurs
last
in
year. He did get
2013.
embarrassed. What?
Spurs in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's just superstars have moments where they're humble and they realize what they have to change about their game. You could say he wasn't, I don't know how things were this season. They could say he wasn't doing that. I just can't believe that, unless it's some other consideration, again, like just being cheap or just name any of 13 conspiracies,
Being
that
stupid.
that you're going to get rid of that as they're defending. I mean, they didn't win the West, but they were in the West. No, they did win the West.
yeah. They
By the
won
Yeah,
the
way,
they
West.
were in the
it's late.
finals.
It's late night. No, yeah, they're defending the Western Conference this year, and they've just made a trade that enabled a bunch of money, and now their team has a Luka Doncic shaped hole. Who's going to fill that? Who's coming to Dallas? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Max Christie.
Is Kyrie Irving the guy? I don't think so. I like Kyrie Irving,
Hmm.
but I don't know.
I realize now we didn't give ourselves or maybe even our audience a chance to really let loose the obvious responses, like the natural instinct. When you first heard the news, Brandon, what was your first thought? What was the first thing you said out loud?
Uh, It was, I mean, it was literally, it was like responding to some sort of tragedy. And I don't mean to make a lightly of anything like that, but it was being like, what? Like, what? No, like immediately, like looking up articles, like, what, like complete and utter disbelief. Actually, the first thing that I did see was your message, Tyler, which was after I went to bed.
Oh
You sent,
no! Oh
yeah,
no!
you
Dude, I
sent a
President
message in
Bushed you,
Instagram.
dude.
Oh, it's all right.
You were reading to
But I,
children.
I was just like, what happened? And I mean, I was literally like, I had to get up early that morning, and I'm just like scrolling and just like in utter disbelief. I think Jackie thought like someone died or something. I was like, what the fuck is
Hey, a
happening?
lot of souls
Uh,
died in Dallas that day.
oh,
Then
then that's number, just a quick aside. That's the biggest thing that like irritates me about this is someone who roots for some teams that like
or small market.
pay for a really good player and that really good player's beloved and like that's kind of what you have as that team.
And he loved the
Um,
city. He loved the city. He loved the
yeah,
team.
yeah, and
And
look, I'm sure he was difficult to work with. I don't think you talk to many people around LeBron James at any point that would say like that guy's a breeze, man. He's so laid back, just so chill all the time. And I'd say that's probably the case with Luca too. He's probably pretty difficult, but yeah, but I was just immediately just couldn't understand. I just wanted to consume podcasts and read articles and try to get some understanding of it. But then after all the shock and the acceptance of all of it, it was like, okay, so Luka and LeBron are on the Lakers now?
yeah,
Fascinating.
not my first thought, but among my first thoughts is Brandon is gonna be so hard to talk to later this
Oh,
season.
once I got over the like denial phase, I was like pretty pumped.
Wait a
I
minute, that's my team.
yeah, I mean, it's look, I consider what I have with the Lakers to be like more of a situationship than anything.
I see.
Um,
Okay.
but But I do root for them. Well, it's funny. I rooted for them because when LeBron won in Cleveland, I said, okay, I'll root for you wherever you go. Whatever. I'm still gonna like Cleveland, but and then he went to the Lakers. But then after watching the Lakers for 5 years, I start to like the other Lakers because I've been watching them, and now I'm just like, am I a Lakers fan now? Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
That's right. That is the Homer alarm for Brandon and his
It
Lakers
is. I'm like,
fandom.
Austin Reeves is pretty great. Man, Dalton Connect's fun to watch. No one
Um,
can play defense, but that's fine. Um,
well,
but this opens up the next several, I mean, decade for the Lakers. But if they can get some rim protection and like this isn't the team. I don't want to see Luka and LeBron in the playoffs. If I'm another team,
Yeah.
yep, sure don't. Well, I was with Adam when we both found the news. I wish
oh yeah,
I was almost able to get John to get on this one, but he was busy with some other plans. But John called Adam at 11:30 p.m. I was sitting across the table from Adam, and we were just drinking espresso martinis and chatting. And we think it's something serious because why is John calling you at 11:30 p.m.? And then he just goes, Luka got traded. He says, Shams just tweeted it. Luka got traded. Me and Adam fervently check our phones. My first thought was, that's fake as hell, dude. That this tweet looks so fake.
there's no way.
There's no way. This message looks so fake. And then there's a follow-up message that says, this is not fake. And I'm like, Adam said that's exactly what a fake tweeter would say.
Yeah, I think we were talking about Shams and we were trying to see like what the deal was and all that kind of stuff. And the next tweet, he tweets like the initial details. I think it was just like Luka for Davis,
Yeah.
and then everyone's freaking out. And the next tweet he sends is, "I promise I was not hacked. These are the details." And that's when I was like, "That's exactly what a hacker would say."
And his colleagues had to tweet like, "This was not. This is real."
This is
I'm
real.
sitting next to him right now. He's tweeting this.
He's on at 1 a.m. on like ESPN or the news saying, I am not a hacker. This is actually Shams telling you about this trade. I still feel just bad for Dallas fans, dude. Like we were with my girlfriend April, who's not an NBA fan but just more of a Spurs fan, and we were just basically the easiest and very accurate depiction would be just like, imagine you've had Wemby for like, a good amount of time, and then he just gets tossed around like he was nappy in the middle of the night, just with no forewarning, nothing leading up to it. And then on top of that, you got almost nothing of equal value out of it. You got some stuff, but like, and then she was like, okay, yeah, that I can see how that's bad. And then after that came the wave of like a billion TikToks of people crying during weddings and crying during bachelor parties to the news, which has been my favorite thing to watch out of pity.
Well, I do think as people are underrating AD as a player right now. Like AD is an incredible player right now. The thing that I keep coming back to is AD is in his early 30s, and he's a big guy who has been injury prone in the past. And you sent away a top 5 player in pre-prime,
Before his
really.
prime, yeah, before his prime.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just like,
so do we?
It's the future of that.
Is there any bit of y'all that does believe in the like he doesn't have the discipline like argument or whatever, not assumption, but what the front off? There are rumors that are pointing fingers at Doncic from the Mavericks organization side, saying that he doesn't keep up with conditioning, he doesn't stay in shape, he's not, he lacks the discipline, he lacks the drive. Like, do you guys believe in any of that?
I do believe it. I would also say you won the West last year.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for here? Like, that discipline stuff I'm sure is valid. I really am. But when someone took their team to the to the finals last year, why do I keep thinking he didn't win the West? He won the West.
Because it makes it more unbelievable that this happened. If you remind yourself that they won the Western Conference Finals, were in the finals of the NBA championship, that makes it more stupid that this happened. With them saying, it's like it's them.
Could Could you imagine halfway through the season when the Bengals were in the Super Bowl if they traded Joe Burrow?
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my
No,
gosh.
exactly. And it's like
Like,
it's beyond all of that. It's the added bonus of the guy making the decision saying we want to win now. When it's like, bro, you were literally like 2 games from winning, like now. So
absolutely. And as far as the Supermax goes, it's again, this is my big thing. Is it's like, what are you spending that money on for? Like,
Yeah.
where? Like you just now have a Luka shaped hole on your team.
well,
You've
don't
got this
forget,
great.
Brandon. There's also the luxury tax, so I think you gotta cut them
uh,
some slack.
Well, this is the thing that if it was a movie, but also this isn't fucking Carl Anthony Towns. No offense to him, he's
Yeah.
great. Luka Doncic.
Hey,
Like this is.
I will take the lack of conspiracy theories, but I will not allow cat slander on this
It's not Cat
podcast.
slander. He's great. I like Cat, and he's having a great season. But it's just like that whole thing where they're like, well, they had to get rid of Cat to like.
Can we
But it made sense for like a cheap team because it's like, well, they do have Edwards. They have their guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it made sense on that level. And now they have Julius Randle,
Can
which is a
we
whole other thing.
can
But
we take an aside to discuss the worst
sure.
trades of all time? And is this the worst trade of all time?
The worst trades of all time.
We can't know yet. But
Yeah, that's where I think, going back to my original point, I think this is gonna turn into one of those like,
Wait and see.
it sounds bad, but it could be, like, it could not be that bad. I could see it being okay.
I mean,
like,
I think breaking your fans' goodwill is pretty bad.
let me put it to you
Yeah.
this way. Let me put it to you this way. If the Mavericks win the championship this year,
Mm-hmm.
is this the worst trade of all time?
I just can't live in the world of ifs, Adam. I can only give you the eye test right now.
Okay,
I'm not a
but
seer.
like,
I'm not a seer, you know.
no, I don't think if you say if the Mavs win the title,
yeah,
if the Mavs win the title this year, I don't think you can say it's the worst trade of all time.
hmm
I still this is one of the few cases where if the Mavs win the title this year, I still don't think you can say with certainty that the Mavs won the trade by any means.
I agree. But I do think that depending on the success of this team, like, it kind of goes back to the Toronto thing, right? With Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi brought them a championship, and now Toronto's back in no man's land. Like, they had a successful thing. You know, DeRozan and Lowry were beloved. Their teams were always like fun. They had a huge from my perspective, it seemed like a cult following.
They
Obviously,
had
the whole,
Drake. I
yeah,
mean,
a lot of hype.
Drizzy.
I don't know how much his endorsement counts nowadays, but
Ooh.
back in the day, he was a fun sideline celebrity to see. So I see a lot of parallels there where if this were to be successful, which, don't get me wrong, like I said, I don't think it moves the needle that much, but if it does move in a direction, I do think the Mavs are slightly worse. Um, but if they were to somehow win it, like they got to the finals last year with what I'm saying is virtually a equatable team, is that failure? Like, is that a bad trade? Right?
Well, Brandon just said even if they win, he still thinks it's not a successful trade.
Well, or I don't know that it is necessarily yet. And you're totally right about the no man's land thing. I think the thing that's being underrated here is with fans in the league, championships are really, really important. But there are some other things that are equally as important. And when you love a player on a team and
And he loves you
your
back.
team just whisks them away in the middle of the night, that's a really big deal. I've talked to multiple people who are Mavs fans, diehard Mavs fans, diehard Luka fans that I know. That one referred to themselves as a former Mavs fan,
So they're joining the Spurs fanship, right?
and no, a couple of them said, "Well, I guess I root for the Lakers now."
Well, that's not great.
So I think that's a borderline disaster if you're trying to run a successful team. Now, maybe we're all just overreacting. Maybe in 2 or 3 months, they're gonna like the Kyrie Davis, Klay Thompson of it all, and just fall in love with this kind of weird team in the postseason. Um, but I think it really matters trading. This is like, because you mentioned the Kawhi thing. Kawhi was a rental. Everyone kind of knew he was gone uh, after that year. This is more like if, like, say Scotty Barnes became the best player in the league next year, and then a year after that they traded him. You know what I mean? It's this
Yeah,
guy that came up with the team, and Doncic was freaking handed or was given the keys by their last favorite player. Like Dirk Nowitzki, like passed him the torch,
Yeah.
yeah.
and so I just think
S-
that's really hard
I'm
to come
I'm
back from, especially
curious.
if Luka's successful in LA.
I'm curious then, Adam, at what point do you think it could be considered a worst trade of all time?
Uh, I think for me, a big part of it is how the Mavericks perform over the next 2 seasons,
Okay.
and then additionally how they handle free agency in the following couple seasons. Um, because they don't have a lot of draft capital right now.
Because they chose not to test the waters in the market for Luka, and they
They
only
Exactly.
got
chose not
one.
to get any for free, basically.
Yeah.
They do have some good young players. Lively, I think, is a solid center. He's played well. Obviously, has some flaws in his game, but um, they're really gonna have to see if they can convince a player. And this is the repercussions of this. Having seen what they did to Luka, can they convince other NBA stars
Yeah.
to come play there? And
The
it's not
stars
even
they need now.
exactly. It's not even just
Yeah.
Luka. It's also like in a way Clay, right? Clay came
Yeah.
hoping to win a championship with a team that was assumed to have Luka on it for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
So, how do you as ownership convince players to come play for you under those circumstances? I think that that's where it's hard to measure in the short term. We have to it's going to have a decade of hindsight to I think before we can compare it to other trades. Like what you mentioned like let's go through like the worst trades. The one that always sticks out to me is the Kobe Bryant trade. Um Kobe Bryant was traded for a guy just a big guy that didn't end up doing stuff from the Hornets. The Hornets had the rights to Kobe. He could have played there. They knew he wanted to play in LA, but they had his contract, and there was a lot less player power back then too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But all that to be considered, Charlotte wanted to win now. Famous last words. They didn't. They traded away Kobe Bryant to get someone that was going to help them like contribute at the time. And then, as we saw, Kobe Bryant went to be a legacy player for the Lakers. So, in that moment, even in the couple seasons surrounding that, you can't really say, you can say who won the trade. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say you can't say someone didn't win the trade. I think the Lakers definitely won this trade. But whether it's like the worst trade or like in that conversation, I think it takes some hindsight before you can get to that point.
To me, there will always be the equation of like there's going to be whatever happen. The legacy of this trade will be whatever ends up unfolding, right? How Luka does, how the Mavs do now, all that stuff will be considered. But you're always going to have to subtract the picks they could have gotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's always going to be whatever the result is minus everything else you could have gotten in this deal.
Yeah.
Um. But it could still end up being a net positive. I don't know.
Well,
I don't think it will, in my opinion.
I wanted more vigor, guys. I wanted someone to go, yes, this is the worst trade of all time. So I'll take that stance. This is the worst trade of
It's
all
the
time.
most shocking trade of all time.
It's the most shocking trade in my lifetime.
It's the most betraying trade I've ever seen. Of
Of
just utter betrayal.
For sure. For sure. I
Just-
agree with that completely.
Have you
And I'd
seen
go a step
any of the
further.
interviews Luka's been saying today?
No.
Like literally all of them are like, yeah, I wanted to retire there. I wanted to spend my career there. I believed in the city and the city believed in me, I gave him my all, and
Yeah, if you
I respect loyalty, and so it's
yeah,
like, man, dagger, heart, twist.
and the press conference too, he looks very sad behind the eyes, like in the Laker press conference. I mean, he said all the right things, but it's just kind of a bummer. And look, I'm someone who roots for the Lakers, and I'm still like, this is such a bummer for Mavs fans. And also, by the way, my God, like the Lakers, just how do they keep doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't keep getting away with this. You're right, Brandon.
They're an organizational mess, and they run into LeBron in 2019. LeBron wants to play in LA, and this is frankly how they do it, is because everyone wants to play in LA. It's not that
Yeah.
hard, but uh, they get LeBron and Clutch. They basically also signed Clutch, and the Clutch machine helps
The
them get them Davis.
entire agency.
No, not technically, but a good chunk of it. Uh,
Dude, I want to see Rich Paul out
no,
there hooping.
yeah. And then they win the title, and then things are going a little south. And they're really in this fork of the road moment, especially this season. But and they're playing pretty well, and all of a sudden this falls into their lap. They get Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and like one first round pick, and Dallas had to give up a second round pick.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the God really
It's
rewards
wild.
those who suffer, those who deserve it,
Oh,
those who suffer. God hands these things out. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, it is wild. Again, the part that will never make sense to me is that the Mavs won the West last year. You just never see a team that have it's gone through their most successful season, like at least in their current formation. And then the star, who's a top 5 player, gets traded. It's just wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also like, to compare, the closest thing I can think of in recent memory is the Bucks. Uh when they won the championship
Right.
And then
and
fired
then
Bud.
fired their head coach. Like, it's that to me was surprising.
That happened the next
This,
season, right?
I
Yeah,
don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah,
No, it
no,
was
that happened after they lost to Miami the next year.
Yeah, it was a year separated, but
two
like,
Right,
seasons.
right,
Yeah.
right.
but it was still, you've seen that they can win,
Sure.
and they weren't significantly worse
Yeah,
performing.
wasn't that following season Giannis got injured for a good part of it?
I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly the details, but I'm fairly certain. I mean, they were still in the playoffs,
Yeah, it was
which,
just there was a lot of circumstances that was rough.
yeah.
Also,
So,
that was like one of the cruelest firings ever. They fired him after that Heat loss, and like his brother had died like during that
yeah,
series,
yeah,
and that was one of the coldest firings of all time for sure.
yeah. It's one of those situations that to me points to, like, someone has to be to blame, but when you put the blame on, like, the franchise face of the franchise, uh you should at least, and we've said this a couple times already, you should at least get a good return for it. Like, don't just give up the golden goose because it laid a bad egg. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it wasn't
One of
even a
the
bad egg, it was
Well,
a silver egg instead of a golden
I'd
egg. You know what I
argue
mean?
the finals is probably a pretty tasty egg.
one of the most telling things about how the Mavs felt about Luka, and you guys have probably heard this, but Brian Windhorst on his podcast brought this up. That you guys remember during the finals when he absolutely ripped Luka after one of the games
Yep.
for messing with the officials, for really being a detriment to his team.
Yeah.
He said he showed up the next couple of games in Dallas, and I mean, fans were jeering him, booing him, doing mean chants about him, everything you would expect a good fan base to do when you go after one of their players.
Mhm.
Um, he said he didn't hear one thing from the Mavericks organization, which for someone like him is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Usually you hear something like we didn't from some representative, we didn't appreciate this, or a press release.
That doesn't
Brian
represent
Windhorst.
the way that our organization behaves, something like that.
Yeah, or just like, to tear down our player. This was wrong. This was sensational, whatever.
Yeah,
He didn't hear a word from them, and that is extremely loud now.
yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's shocking. It's, from my words, worst trade of all time. But we are approaching the end of our hour here, gentlemen. I did want to spend the last 2 minutes here back in my favorite spot. That's right. We're in the Homer
I
corner.
appreciate your guys. I really do.
We're in the Homer corner. San Antonio got De'Aaron Fox. We did it. We've done it.
did it.
He's part of our team now. And, I don't wish ill on anyone, but boy, howdy, am I glad to have a certain contract off of our team. And it rhymes with Mac Mullins. So congratulations to a successful GM.
Speaking of
not a
getting
doubter.
fleeced,
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, here we
this
go.
trade, absolutely wild. I
I'm
don't know.
I'm confused if maybe we fudged some scouting reports when we were presenting these documents on our players, or what happened, what's going on with all these other teams where they just are fine with what's on our page.
Adam, I've got to ask, did you think I was serious when I said I'm really liking this Kings roster?
No, I did
Okay,
not.
okay.
I assumed it was sarcasm, but if you do enjoy this Kings roster, all power to you. You could have
I'll
seen
watch it
it.
on League Pass.
You could have seen it in like a couple seasons ago. I'm just saying
It's
this is the sequel.
Was it a Windy City, perhaps?
Yeah, it was yeah. I think the jerseys were a little bit more red back then, but no, but realistically.
I'm sorry, did Chicago have Sabonis? I don't think so.
Well,
Did Chicago have Malik Monk? I don't think
dude,
so.
Chicago did not have Adam's favorite player in the league, Sabonis, man.
So
Adam's favorite player.
You're telling me that Sabonis is not just another flavor of Vucevic, and then Malik Monk is not just a less exciting to watch Kobe White? Come on now. You even have I don't remember if he was on the team at the time, but oh gosh, his name's escaping me. Ex-Laker, went to A&M, bald.
Oh, Caruso.
Yeah, Caruso. I don't remember exactly when he got to the team, if that was before or after DeRozan left. But
hey, we love Caruso on this podcast, Adam.
No. I'm not trying to talk mess about him. He's definitely
I'm a Caruso stan. I have his photo card in my wallet. I've got Alex Caruso written on my notepad, in heart letters.
I'm gonna send you guys my favorite picture when this pod is over, and we can talk about it next pod on air.
Of Alex Caruso, please.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
You're gonna like it.
I love Alex.
You're gonna like it.
I'm just saying that Chicago team was fun, but goddamn, if I thought they were gonna win games, then I was probably inebriated.
Well, I don't know, Adam. I've seen you inebriated at ball games, and you still have a pretty good sense to you. So I don't know. I don't think that's correct.
I don't remember ever thinking they were gonna win games.
Boy, howdy, could they not win a basketball game?
Talk about a poor fan base, Sacramento fans. I mean, you had some energy with Light the Beam a couple years ago.
Dude, light the freaking beam, guys! Light the beam.
It was great, and then this year you fired your coach, and then made
lose one of your best players.
You can't even get John Collins to join your organization.
Yeah.
Pick up Zach LaVine, who, once again, I don't know if you catch our last episode, Zach LaVine in my brain is the L in his last name is capital for a reason.
Okay.
So,
all right, hot take.
I thought it was just capital because last names are usually capital.
No. His is special. His is special.
I see. We're not disparaging anyone. We love all the players.
Yeah, that sounded a little disparaging to me.
No, I think we all love the players equally. But yeah, I don't understand how this trade went down. I don't understand how we as the Spurs gave away basically almost nothing, including
your team got 15% less hot without that.
That's true.
That's hot.
the attractive stat on ESPN, dude. It puts us in the bottom 15 of the league.
You're in the bottom 15 percentile in
Oh my
league
lord.
hotness.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, you're right, dude. I forgot that's the most.
Yeah.
I forgot about that stat.
But all jokes aside, how are you guys feeling about De'Aaron Fox with Wemby? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I think change is good, and getting an excellent player is great. And honestly, Zach Collins was our fourth center. So I
Yeah.
mean, you know, losing Trey Jones is not super fun. He's a good heart to him, but he was our backup point guard anyways. So
You kept Castle and Vassell both though. That's pretty.
we kept Castle,
impressive.
Vassell, Keldon, and our important first round picks, and that's kind of wild.
Well, and then we also kept Sohan, which I was kind of concerned. He's taken a little bit of a step back this season. He's been injured a lot, but I was concerned they might be shopping him around. But I do think one of the reasons, like, I still super excited to see De'Aaron Fox. I think he's going to be very fun to watch. I kind of feel the same that he's not. It's going to be an interesting fit because he's not the best shooter, and we don't have a lot of great shooters. So if we can find some sniper somewhere that wants to sign a contract now that their star left, and wants to be on a potentially up and coming team, and a vet maybe used to play, I don't know,
I don't think we're gonna get Klay Thompson, dude.
I don't know.
I don't think Klay Thompson's gonna move 300 miles further south,
things
brother.
Have happened. I'm just saying.
No,
if Dallas wants to load up on some picks.
With all the picks you guys have, though, I don't think De'Aaron Fox is by any means like a. It's not an all-in move. It's like we're more in. It's a we're more in move.
Yeah, I think the goal is Luka Doncic in the year. Honestly.
Well, no, I mean the Lakers are going to get Wemby. That's what's going to happen. You guys aren't going to want to pay that contract.
Hey, can you throw some salt over your shoulder right now, man? Can you please? Don't put that juju.
Actually, with the trending way the trades are trending, we're gonna go LeBron for Wemby straight up. I mean, I think that's fair. All things considered.
Nothing else is part of the packet. It's just LeBron for Wemby.
Actually, we'll give them
LeBron and Pop at that point will just be drinking wine like on the
court.
side of the court.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even a basketball game. It's just Spurs wine hour at that point.
Exactly.
Fans can come drink wine.
Patty Mills is there as well. With fancy fine Australian
flying
wine.
around all over the place.
Yeah, actually, I do have some beef I wanted to raise. In terms of Spurs news, like they couldn't even let my boy Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills have their day of like breaking news. They're getting traded. Everyone was all freaking out about Patty Mills for like a couple hours, and then all of a sudden the Luka thing happened. So I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think the news cycle's rigged. Honestly, it's rigged against former Spurs players.
Oh, the spotlight. But I really do. In all seriousness, I do think the De'Aaron Fox thing's pretty good. Like after looking at it and what's left on his contract, I mean, it's one where you could, if it isn't quite working out, at best, you found the centerpiece guard for your team. At worst, you found a better guard for Wemby to play with and get experience with.
Exactly.
So I think it's a good move either way you look at it.
Someone faster than Old Man Paul and someone better than Trey Jones. So,
Exactly. I wasn't totally sure on it, but when I looked at kind of what is left on his contract, it kind of makes sense, I think.
I think the Spurs have set themselves up so nicely if we can just get some freaking people who can shoot a basketball from
but man,
long.
When that Supermax comes around, who knows? I don't know if they're going to want to pay Wemby. They might have to send him to L.A.,
Can we please stop the cursing? Can we please?
Be like, guys, we got Austin Reeves and Bronny and a first.
Please, Brandon, please. All right, we're at the end of the podcast here. My last note is going to be Jimmy Butler is still homeless. Someone help this man.
Actually, and his spotlight got taken.
And his spotlight did get taken. The wild misadventures of Jimmy B have been paused.
It is interesting because they announced today that most teams have the Heat were dissatisfied with all the offers they've received so far.
And Jimmy B was dissatisfied with almost all those same offers as well. The cities they are.
It's not looking like he's gonna be moving.
he's
Might
gonna
be sitting the rest of the season on the bench.
He's gonna be practicing up on his crochet, his macrame.
And I believe then he'll have, I think, the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever, which would be to opt into like $52 million next year.
And then
and then sit.
Heat.
Dude, isn't it so hard being an NBA player and making tens of millions of dollars to watch basketball from the courtside?
Well, they don't. To clarify, they don't get paid their full salary if they don't play games.
Sorry, millions of dollars. Not tens of millions, my bad. Millions of dollars
They
to watch
typically have in their
basketball
contract
courtside.
they have to play a certain amount of games to hit benchmarks, but
Well, he's certainly hitting the bench, that's for sure.
This is also, by the way, the reason I don't think Bron and AD were totally in the dark about it is that AD waived his trade kicker. So I don't know. I maybe they didn't know.
Are you
for
saying
sure,
people
but
are
I
just
feel
going
like
on the
that's a
internet and
weird
telling
thing.
lies, Brandon?
It's a weird thing to do if you're blindsided, right?
People just don't do
LeBron
that.
might have been, but
People just don't tell lies. What are you talking about? Everything's exactly what the media reported.
Well, for sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining on this very boring, very nothing burger of a week of NBA news.
Good times.
Hopefully,
I'm sure
nothing
will happen in the next 2 days.
Yeah, hopefully we can have hopefully we can have a little bit more of a chill next 2 days until this episode's rendered completely useless yet again. Just like last week's.
No, it's okay.
That was
Great conversation.
Wild turn of events. Like 4 days after that episode happening, the world blew up.
Listen, everything on the last pod might have been irrelevant right after we finished it. I did make the joke that Wemby looks like a 9-foot-tall Gumby, and Tyler thought that was really funny. So we have that from the last episode.
Honestly,
that's still accurate.
It's a time capsule.
Yeah,
it's basically just seeing where you were before Luka. We know what we were thinking before the Luka trade. And what we were thinking was that Luka wasn't in our brains of being traded. So
that was not even it's wild how not on anyone's radar that was. But
except Pelinka. Gosh darn you.
Not
All right,
yet.
well, congrats, Lakers. Sorry, Maps fans.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we've been Gimme the Ball. Once again, I am your host, Tyler, joined by Adam.
Hello.
And Brandon.
Yo.
And us three co-hosts will be signing off now. Catch y'all on the next one. See ya.
Bye.